Welcome, welcome. Happy Friday, everyone. Valeria Larcon here, Executive Director at the New Mexico Alliance of Health Councils in support and in service of all 33 county health councils and currently 10 tribal health councils for a healthy and thriving New Mexico. So grateful that you have all made time to join us. Just wanted to let you all know that I am flying solo today. So I'm going to be doing a bit of managing our slide presentation, the discussions that we're going to have, a few polls that we're going to have, we'll see. And then we have our friend Lisa Hampton from Los Alamos County Health Council, who is going to provide support in the chat. Let me just remove some of these distracting things that are popping up on my screen. In the meantime, if you want to introduce yourselves in the chat, let us know where you're joining us from. That would be amazing. I also have a little poll here that I'm launching. Oh, this is not the one. End poll. Okay. All righty. So I know just from a visual scan, I know we have Santa Clara Pueblo, Jonathan, we have Los Alamos, we have Valencia. Thank you all. We have some of our interns who've been joining us. Quay is popping in. Susan and Lily are part of our interns. We have Morgan Chavez, who's part of our board of directors. So grateful that you're all here. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I think when I put it on, let me see if it works on screen share. Sometimes, can you all see the screen now?
Yes.
How about now? Did it change on your end?
I still see it.
Do you see the land acknowledgement? I know sometimes it doesn't work, so.
No, I still just see the welcome to health councils.
Okay, it's not working. Okay, let's stick to the regular share. Thank you for the grace, my friends, and happy Friday. Those of you who just joined, so happy you're here. We're going to kick us off with our land acknowledgement. The New Mexico Alliance of Health Councils gives sincere gratitude for the opportunity to live and work here in the ancestral and unceded lands of that have been cared for by our state's original peoples of the Apache Nations, Pueblos, and Navajo Nation. We honor and respect the indigenous cultures, traditions, languages, and the rich contributions that continue to shape New Mexico today. Together, we acknowledge the history and impact of genocide, dispossession, colonization, and ongoing systemic inequities on indigenous communities. As a collective, we commit ourselves to working towards justice and reconciliation, dismantling inequitable systems, standing in solidarity with, and respecting relationships with indigenous peoples. The Alliance affirms indigenous sovereignty, self-determination, and self-governance of New Mexico's tribes, pueblos, and nations. In offering this land acknowledgement, we encourage everyone to reflect on your own relationship to the traditional land and original peoples and take concrete action to dismantle systems of oppression so that indigenous peoples are empowered and celebrated. And we are now at 18 strong, my friends. So happy that you're all here joining us today. If we want to just, if you haven't had an opportunity, if you can kindly chime in on the chat, where you are joining us from. I do see Lisa from Sierra County, Susan Brown, who's public health student, an intern at the Alliance, Jonathan Tafoya from Santa Clara Pueblo Council, Marna, right? I am so sorry if I'm messing up the name, from Los Alamos Health Council, and Christus St. Vincent's, and Svilana from Nino More. And we have
North
folks
Carolina.
from North Carolina. Welcome, welcome. How did you find out about Health Council Talks, Svetlana?
We have a healthy coalition, very similar to what you do, and we are eager to learn and to invite if someone is willing to join one of our monthly meetings in the next months, because I saw the website and I was so inspired because there are plenty of things we do similar or we can learn from you or share. So just Google.
Yes. Oh
And
my gosh.
I'm from Need No More organization where we make food access easily reachable and actionable. And I am looking for partners because we will be doing a pilot in New Mexico. So when I learned about your Healthy Talks, I thought this is the right fit to
Um,
find someone there.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are so happy you're here. You're in good company. We've got a lot of beautiful, dedicated people in this space, across county and tribal health councils and various service provider sectors who work diligently on ensuring food accessibility in support of our communities. So you have a lot of, friends here who are aligned with your effort in North Carolina. So I've included our emails so that we can circle back. You can send us your information, and we're happy to set up a meeting, an introduction meeting. And for all of our friends too, we do have sharenm.org, where you can access over 14,000 resources throughout New Mexico, including food accessibility. With Dr. Melissa Riley and the team and our interns, we're constantly updating those lists, vetting that those services remain, and definitely strengthening partnerships with, Kitchen Angels and Food Depot and many other organizations throughout New Mexico that who work on ensuring food accessibility, including a specific curated resource list in support of tribes, pueblos, and nations throughout New Mexico. So please do know that there's that resource available to you all. And for today's convening, today's Health Council talks, given that we are right almost in the middle of the interim session, we get quite a bit of requests around civic engagement, sort of given an overview of the legislative process in New Mexico, the work that the Alliance does in support with and in support of County and Tribal Health Council. So we have some really exciting advocacy updates. And also an upcoming convening that I think all of you will find of deep interest. But just to make sure that everyone knows who we are, I do see a lot of our health councils here. Kayla, welcome. We see you, Brenda, Pamela. So just to kind of give everyone the lay of the land, the New Mexico Alliance of Health Councils is representative of all 33 counties and tribal health councils as an alliance in service of communities. The Alliance core team, which is myself and Gerald and Antonio, tribal liaisons, Sam Henning, comms, Dr. Melissa Riley, Sharon M., and Joseph Hill. We provide this set of 15 services in support of health councils and our communities across the state. And of course, I'm highlighting advocacy and policy because that's what we're going to talk about today, right? And so in support of counties, tribes, pueblos, and nations, we also work closely with the Department of Health. So county and tribal health councils, there's a legislative act, a state law that specifies the role, function, and purpose of county and tribal health councils. And what's so excited about this legislation, HB 137, is that it is truly a representation of our local communities. And so when you look across the currently 43 health councils, you see the diverse representation of our communities. Not one county or tribal community is the same, right? And so we work in concert with DOH within the 4 public health regions on 5 sort of overarching areas. So public health education, prevention, intervention, emergency response efforts, and multi-sector collaboration for bridging gaps in services. The work of health councils is highly and deeply multidisciplinary and intersectional, and that's what makes them a really strong partner in public health, in public safety, in education, in so many areas. And so let me stop here, and if health councils want to come on camera or maybe do a digital hello so that our non-health council guests can see you, who you are, and that you're here. There's Jonathan, peace sign. There's Brenda peeking in. Joyce, Lisa, Daniel, um, and Marna. Hi, Marna. And Pamela Skinner, Jose Gonzalez from Taos, Kayla Blanchard from Otero County. So you're in good company with your health councils who are so community driven, community rooted, right? So let me share this little QR code. This is going to be a good resource for you all about what the New Mexico legislative process looks like. This little QR code takes you to the timeline for this upcoming, what the legislation timeline is. It has not been updated because for 2027, because those dates have not been issued yet. They will be issued probably towards the end of December. And you're going to have a plethora of resources there. So instead of bombarding you with 100 other slides, you've got this one touch point for getting all the resources for a deep dive in our New Mexico legislative process. Okay, so I will also put the New Mexico nmlegis.gov, so you can also capture that and put it in your browser if the QR code for some reason is not translating in the slide. Okay. And so we're going to give you sort of a lay of the land of what this legislative process looks like, the do's and don'ts in and around advocacy, civic engagement, and advocacy. And so for the 2027 legislative session, that is going to be a 60-day legislative process. And I think it's incredibly timely because we're going to have a new governor and a new lieutenant governor, right? And new leadership in some of our state agencies. The current bill for 2026, SFY 2027, which started July 1st, is $11.3 billion. So that's kind of been our range, $10 billion to $11.3 billion. And as you know, there were so many successes with regards to legislation that came through for public health. There's probably 13, 14 legislations that were passed in support of public health, compacts, malpractice, and then, of course, with universal child care. And I'm sure a lot of you joined us for the May 5th Community Collaborative Forum, where Representative Sapansky provided an overview of all those policies. So we'll be sure to share those with you in the chat here momentarily. But just to say, very high level, the process involves the pre-filing of bills, and those are filed by legislators themselves. The introduction of bills, so as the legislative session opens, that's when bills are being filed and then are being introduced through the legislative process, which typically starts at the House, goes to the Senate, and then back to the House before it's all goes to the governor for final approval. And that process involves different committees, House Appropriations and Finance, Senate Finance. And then the governor is the one that takes action. The governor is the one who votes on the final set of bills and final budget, usually within 30 days after the session. So even though the 60-day session ends in March, the budget isn't completely to the finish line of approval process until about April, right? So we're still keeping our eyes on making sure things in the budget that benefit our communities remain. Let me pause here and maybe take a digital thumbs up or thumbs down. Have you been involved in the legislative process from an advocacy perspective, from a concerned citizen's perspective, advocating for a bill or in support of a bill? Any of you been involved in that process? Okay, we have John and Marna hasn't. So this is going to be really insightful for you, Marna. Lisa has. Well, Marna and others who may not, this is probably the first time getting sort of a little introduction into the legislative process. Know that you're in good company. The Alliance is here to support you. And you've got your peers too, Marna. Kayla, who is, very well versed in advocacy, and so is Jonathan, and Brenda and Joyce and many, many others who participate in the advocacy process during the interim session and legislative session. And I tell you, my friends, when we work together, when we unify our voices in support of what's most important for our communities, change can happen. And we're going to share a little bit about how that change has happened here in support of county and tribal health councils. And we hope that you find that very inspiring. Okay. I also want to invite you all to mark your calendars. The Alliance is going to be providing an in-depth training on the legislative process. So it's going to be a 2-hour training on November 6th. This is an annual training that we provide in November so that folks feel really, really prepared, right, for being involved, civically involved, or part of an advocacy effort during the legislative process. And we do a deep dive in formulation of bills and the differences between advocacy and lobbying, right? So how to develop your elevator speech, because during the session, legislators have 30 seconds to connect with you. Everything's moving so fast. So mark your calendar, November 6th. This is open to everybody who's interested in the learning more deeply about the legislative process, knowing how to become more civically engaged, and also knowing how to advocate in support of those policies and causes that you are deeply passionate about. The 2027 legislative session timeline will be announced in December. Okay, so here's a little high level of the legislative process itself. The pre-filing and introductions of bills we talked about, those are filed by legislators, either in the House representatives or on the Senate, right? Senators. And then a bill number is issued. On the New Mexico legislative website, then you can track that bill number that you're really interested in supporting through the entire process of these bills going through different committees. And so depending on the bill, it might go through, Public Health Committee, Health and Human Services Committee, Tax and Revenue Committee, Senate Finance Committee, House Appropriations, Indian Affairs, and the list goes on. How those committees' assignments are done, that's in an internal process. The public isn't really involved in that. We just have to keep track of those bills and see where it's moving from what committee to the other. Often bills are also presented during chamber. So we have the House chamber and we have the Senate chamber. And the chambers are open to the public. There's a gallery on the second floor at the state capitol where the public can sit and listen in those debates, right? Where the House members or Senate members will debate out a bill and vote on a bill. It is the entire process of the legislative during the legislative session is also available via webcast. And you can access that in the legislative website that we just shared with you all. So there's several statuses of the bills when they go through chamber debates. A bill may receive a due pass, right? So that will end up in the budget or in new legislation for the upcoming year. Or it will receive a due pass as amended, because there's a lot of bills that go through various processes of being amended, or it will receive a do not pass with or without recommendations, as well as amended. Just because a bill let's say, dies in this process or during committees reviews, it doesn't mean that everything ends there. It means that we've learned something from this process and we're going to reconvene, look at what's happening, where we need to refine, and work together again to support the work that we're all behind, right, for the next session. The governor, once the whole legislative process completes, that budget and those policies go to the governor for review and final signature. And there may be bills that are allowed to become law without signature, or there's also bills that are vetoed. There's also bills that may carry emergency clauses or become effective as soon as the governor signs them. And as we all saw last year, there's also this element of a special session because we're under an urgency or a crisis mode. The governor may call in a special session. And there's a little chatter right now that there might be a special session in the fall. And then, of course, the effective date of the new budget or laws will be in April 2027 after the session completes and the governor looks at everything. And so in the chat, I included the URL to the New Mexico legislative process so that you can, kind of click around and see what you're finding. Let me just do that with you right now. So here's where they will post in December the 58th legislative session, right? And so they'll start, they'll lay out the outline here. Here's where you can actually search your bill number, right? So if we were to search for the bill number for health councils, for example, HB 137, and you go, it will pull up the bill profile, and the legislators that filed this bill were Representative Allison, who's now retired, and Representative Liz Thompson, who's the chair of Health and Human Services, right? And if you want to read the bill, you can click on the PDF version and read through the bill, right? I'm going to put the HB 137 bill in the chat as well. So if you want to get even more familiar with your health council from a legislative perspective, you can do so. And you can see that the bill went through Health and Human Services. It got a do pass with recommendations. It went to the House floor. It went through the House chamber and it passed. All 63 representatives voted in favor, no votes in opposition, right? And I can't remember what Indian Affairs Committee, Senate Indian Affairs Committee. It went to the Senate, right? And it got a do pass with recommendations and
Becker.
I'm sorry, what? Lisa?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was.
Okay. And so there you have it, my friends, right? You can see the trajectory and you can even look at the committee reports, the analysis, everything. So when you go to the main page, you can also look at the agendas for each of the committees in the House and each of the committees in the Senate. So when you click on these now, you're going to see agendas from the 2026 legislative session. Obviously, there's no activity yet because it's not January 2027. And then the interim committee, you're going to see activities for the summer because the interim committee is happening right now. Right now is when Legislative Finance Committee, Health and Human Service, and many other committees are convening to look at what is pressing from our communities to prioritize for the legislative session in 2027. We have agencies that are also reporting out, right? It could be Healthcare Authority, Department of Education, Department of Health, who are asked to present back to these committees and provide updates. Rural economic, CYFD is going to be presenting next Wednesday in Red River. These interim committees are also available via the webcast. And where do you find the webcast? When you're in the homepage, you see webcasts right between what's happening and the library. And so the webcast is really cool because it has archives of previous committees. And so you can go back to June's Legislative Finance Committee, for example, and then it will tell you what's playing right now, right? So next week, when you open this on Tuesday or Wednesday, you're going to see all the committees that are meeting in Taos and Red River, and you can join any of them to watch and stay informed. And sometimes they allow time for public comment. Let me pause here because I know that was a lot. Any questions? Or reflections? All right, Kayla, go for it, my friend.
So I have a question about I believe it's the fiscal impact report. Do you know who is the one that creates it? Is it a committee within the legislature, or is it other agencies to provide like a neutral, unbiased analysis?
Yeah, great question, Kayla. So my understanding is those FRIs are curated by either a policy analyst from the state agency in concert with a policy analyst from Legislative Finance Council, or sometimes it's just the policy analyst from the state agency that submits it to the legislation. I've seen it happen in both ways. And so what the Alliance does in this case in support of county and tribal health councils, we're in communication with LFC, providing updates on all the impact, aggregate impact, right, that you have all rendered for the previous state fiscal year, so that they're aware of the fact that the entire funding was utilized in these specific areas and it rendered these specific outcomes for our communities.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Any other questions or reflections before I go back to the slide deck? Beautiful. All right. Okie dokie. So let's get back in here. And so with regards to the, navigating the website, searching for a bill, searching for your legislator, you can also do that on legis.com. These, legislators are always so interested and happy to hear from their constituents. So you can find out who your legislator is, obviously through our Google search. You can also go to the nmlegis.gov. What's really exciting, as of last year, the state approved funding for legislators to have a legislative aid. So now their capacity for hearing out community members, for sitting down and gathering more information and distilling that information, and so their capacity has enhanced, and they're always ready, eager, and happy to sit with you and learn from you. And this has been on the Alliance's advocacy efforts for health councils as they build their capacity and also ability, right? Because they hold so much to be more engaged in various advocacy efforts. This is one of many, right? And legislators love to learn about our local partners like health councils, nonprofit sectors that are serving their constituents, and to see them in action and to be part of their, convenings and meetings and, food distribution activities, Narcan training activities, and so much more, right? So if you don't know who your senator, district senator, or district's representative is, you can definitely do a search in the nmlegis.gov website. And also on a Google search also serves very, very quickly. So one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that the Alliance is at the state capitol for the entire duration of the session, whether it's 30 days or 60 days. So if you're ever like, oh my gosh, I want to go see what that process is about, they do offer tours, but know that the Alliance is also here. We can provide you with a tour, introduce you to your representative or senator, show you around it. The roundhouse is a round building and it can get a little confusing and overwhelming. I see Kayla smiling. Do you want to share your experience, Kayla? Because I know you've been with me shoulder to shoulder.
Yes, I will say that there is definitely a difference in going by yourself and trying to navigate that roundhouse versus having support from the Alliance, because I've been to the roundhouse a couple of times, but I went by myself last October for the special session. And there were many times when I got turned around, but the times that I've attended the roundhouse and the Alliance is there, I just know to follow Val, Geraldine, Joseph, or other people because they know where they're going. So I just want to echo what you said to, really utilize the Alliance for the navigation of that building.
Yeah. Absolutely, Kayla. And also to support you with your own civic engagement and your own advocacy, get you all the resources that you need to know who to go talk to for what at the Roundhouse. And there's everyone there it's willing to support as well. I know, Jonathan, you've been with us. You want to share your experience at the Roundhouse?
Sure. I've done it when I worked for the state, and I've done it with you, Val. And I was a former collegiate track athlete, and you were beating me everywhere in high heels, and I was straggling behind you. So it was very insightful. But it's good to know the process. And like Kayla said, it's good to have you guys know, where to advocate, because a lot of stuff sometimes you do get lost because there's so much going on, with Senate bills, House bills, and then you have your committees, your subcommittees, then you have, you don't know where, and then they move a meeting, and it's just like, so it's organized chaos, but I love it personally. But it's basically like it's good to have you, Val, to navigate and to be able to just follow around and just like, okay, like, and then Geraldine's like, well, let's go here. Value's gonna go here. So let's split up here and we'll meet here. And I'm like, oh, yes. I'm like, okay. So, but it's an experience. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on the organized chaos, because and just with the funding bill for health councils, for example, we have to be ready in a moment's notice. So like the second that we start approaching December, we're updating, doing final tweaks to our advocacy deck, because we will get a call Thursday afternoon to show up and present at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. And so you have to be ready. You have to, run to Office Depot and print out 25 pages, 30 copies in color, and you have to be on it. And even in the days process of bills going through the legislative process, sometimes there's even switcheroos then. So you're constantly having to check your phone and check the website and make sure you're tracking everything at all times. And I know Pamela's been with us out there at the Roundhouse, and so has Brenda, and many of you. And I just want to say how powerful it is, especially in this body of work in support of our community statewide through funding health councils, when we do present, and to have 20, 30 of health councils and advocacy partners stand with us, right, and provide comment and raise their hands when they take, voting from the public in support of a bill. It is the most empowering, like, oh my gosh, yes, we can do this. And so I invite you all, my friends, whether it is in support of health councils or policies that you're really inspired and very passionate in support of, know that we're here to resource you and provide the information that you need. so that you can be effective in your own advocacy. Thank you, Kayla and Jonathan, for sharing your experience. And on that note, we want to also share a invitation, invite all of you in your networks and your community partners and families and friends to join the Alliance's Advisory Committee. Morgan Chavez, who is here with us, she's one of our board of directors. Morgan, if you want to wave so people can see you on the side chat. She's going to be leading the advisory committee. And of course, one of the top priorities in that committee is policy and advocacy. And so together, we want to hear from you all, right? From all of you across New Mexico, what is most important to you, right? How can we, through the legislative process, advance community-driven public health policies? And on August 20th, we're hosting the Community Collaborative Forum. We're going to have our friends from Think New Mexico. They're a big policy and research firm. And they're going to give us some updates as to the emergent public health policies that are coming about during this interim session, so that you're prepared, to see what's in the horizon, where you want to support, where you want to be a strong voice for your communities. So we invite you to please put in the chat your email if you want to be included in the upcoming August advisory committee meeting that's going to happen. We'll be launching an invitation here soon. Let me see, make sure. Let me show you all this public awareness campaign that we're promoting in support of health. Oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
No, I just want to before we move forward, just while we're on the legislative stuff.
Yes.
Because the thing is now too with the health councils, what I wanted to tell you as well and to share with everybody, everything is pretty much public on the NM legislative info page.
Mhm.
You have the legislative interim committee meetings schedule. You have the webcasting where you can listen in. You can do a lot of this stuff. So that's where a lot of the legwork happens before either the 30-day or the 60-day session for a lot of this stuff. So like for myself, that's part of my job description here in Santa Clara, is to aware governor and the tribal council to what is coming up on these next, sessions. So with me, this is where the legworks happen, like, an update of what happened last year and then also what they're planning for this coming year. So you get to see all that timeline happen. So it's really cool. I just nerd out on it. I know I'm a nerd, but that's just something maybe if you guys all have time, I tell people just get on. It's webcasted, it's live, and you can see the people that are there and you could put a name to the face, because sometimes we hear like, legislative finance committee, who are they? The health committee, like all these people, you get to see them in person or see them on the webcast. I'm like, oh, okay. So when you do go to the roundhouse, it's like, oh, hey, I remember that senator, I remember that representative. So that's also a good resource as well. I just wanted to share that real quick.
I love that, Jonathan. Thank you. And I've in the chat, I've included the nmlegis.gov, as Jonathan mentioned. Next week is going to be a very active week. LFC, Health and Human Services, are going to be in Taos, and Jonathan is going to go represent health councils. Go, Jonathan. So I know our friend Tony from Piqueries Pueblo, Anthony from the board. There's a few more folks from the board that are going to be representing health councils there. And gratitude is the best attitude, my friends, when engaging with legislators in the interim process. First and foremost, we always want to thank them, right, for their support in sustaining the work of health councils. And then emphasize why it's so important to maintain, to sustain, moving forward, recurring base funding for all health councils. So thank you, Jonathan. This is definitely emphasizing the fact that this is where decisions are made. This is where priorities are identified. And so wanted to say this.
Health councils have been in existence since the early 1990s. Health councils have been severely underfunded since 2010.
The Oakville Health Council is a group of individuals from the community.
I think this is such a great opportunity for the state of New Mexico to invest in this critical system to really improve quality of life and well-being of all New Mexicans now and for generations to come.
And we're always working on, you know, really putting out as much content and information in our public awareness campaigns to educate the public on who health councils are. We can all be part of our health council, right? But who are they? What do they do? How do they support our communities? What kind of body of work are they leading? And so on that note, my friends, one of the messages that we convey in this advocacy priority in support of health councils that we convey to our executive branch and legislators is how critical of a function health councils lead in community-driven public health, community-driven, but also at the systems level, right? There's this process of the CHA, CHIP, and SHIP, the community health assessments and the community health prioritizations and improvements that informs the statewide health plan, which is actually coming to its conclusion of a cycle this year. And I know our friends at DOH are going to be launching into the next cycle next year. And guess who one of their strongest partners is for community engagement in that community health assessment? It's health councils, right? They are the connectors, they're the conveners, they are service providers. They provide so many types of services and programming in support of community. And so what's been really great is that as a result of our collective advocacy effort, our unified voice and messaging, we've been able to enlist legislative support that has rendered one-time allocation funding for health councils the last 3 years. 2024, 2025, and 2026. In 2025, Senate Finance was able to contribute $1 million. So we went from 3 to 4 million. So little by little, we're moving the needle. This year, luckily, we were able to sustain that 4 million. And it was, right, Jonathan and Kayla and Lisa and Pamela and Brenda. I mean, we were in pins and needles because you don't know until it's done. And so I just want to emphasize, my friends, it takes all of us, right? It takes all of us working together. And the more that our elected officials hear about the work that you're leading from multiple places and in multiple ways with the same messaging, they're like, oh, and that's health councils. That's the Alliance of Health Councils, working to serve our communities and improve health and well-being statewide. And so we're always, making improvements. Every year we learn something new, my friends. And every year, sometimes I would say more often, there's a little curveball that keeps us on our toes even more. So on that note, I wanted to share with you what advocacy strategies we are leading in support of our community statewide within this framework of HB 137 County and Tribal Health Councils. So as Jonathan mentioned, this is the interim session. This is where priorities are being identified. This is where this funding discussions are being made to decide on for next session. And so we're all in different ways actively involved in the interim session. So as I mentioned, LFC, Health and Human Services, are going to be meeting in Red River and Taos next week. We're going to have Health Council representation out there, and we're both in person and online. And if there's public comment opportunities, we're all going to take a stand and voice the need, why it's important to sustain recurring base funding. This has been our consistent advocacy message. Recurring base funding for all health councils for a healthy and thriving New Mexico. In addition, the Alliance with Health Councils, we're leading individual meetings with members of LFC and members of other committees to continue to educate them on the critical work of health council, especially now that the health council's finished state fiscal year. We're waiting to get all that impact data so that we can update our advocacy messaging. And in August, we're going to start August, September, October, individual meetings with a better part of 50-something legislators. Health councils also participate in that process. And so, as we know, right, we're in an election year, right? We just went through the midterm, what is it called again? Not midterms. Help me out, Kayla,
Primaries.
Jonathan. Thank you. Primaries. I need more coffee. It's Friday.
No more coffee, water, Val.
Um, so yes, elections are in November, as I have some water. And we've got Deb Holland and Garcia Richard, and we have Mayor Hall and Senator Gallegos. So we've been meeting with all the candidates as soon as they announce their they're running for these executive roles. We've been meeting with them individually since last year. And now that there are these two sets of candidates, we're inviting them to the Community Collaborative Forum on August 20th because we're going to host a public health roundtable discussion with the four of them. And both a county health council and a tribal health council are going to co-facilitate that conversation because we want that conversation to be community-driven, community questions that they get to answer so that we can further understand, right? What is their vision for public health New Mexico in relation to rural New Mexico, in relation to tribes, pueblos, and nations, in relation to the underrepresented in urban areas as well. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, hi. Sorry. I was at another meeting earlier and it blurted through. I apologize. The I think it's fantastic what you guys are doing working with the candidates. I just wanted to comment, though, that the lieutenant governor hasn't officially been selected yet, and that the state central committee for the Democratic Party is going to make that selection, I think, around July 30th. So it could be Harold Pope, it could be one of the other
That's true.
three people. It most likely it will be Stephanie because that's who the governor has actually formally endorsed. But I just wanted to make that clarification. So
Thank you,
whoever it
Lisa.
is, we'll be happy to work with
Yes.
them. But I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Lisa. I just updated our deck. We got the word, but it'll be finalized in July. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. And we engage with all candidates, right? We're apolitical here. We engage with all of our candidates, all of our legislators, because one thing we know to be true, right? We all care deeply about the health and well-being of our community. So how do we get to work together? So they're going to be part of this public health roundtable discussion. And because they're also conducting their statewide tours, we're sharing with them all the different activities, community health events that health councils are leading, as always. But to say, we welcome you to come join our health council community health event so that they can get to know the community, they can learn about the work that's happening locally. And I think it's a great educational opportunity. And on the tribal tribal leadership side, we're also continuing as always, strengthening our relationship with all Pueblo Council of Governors who have been a strong advocate supporter with HB 137, funding for tribes, pueblos, and nations as well. We were also invited to the Pueblo Convocation, which is a really big honor to be invited to this very special convening for all 19 pueblos. And then we're also very much working closely with Navajo Nation, Apache Nations, Mescalero and Jicarilla, and the 5 pueblos who have said they're very interested in establishing their health council, hopefully SFY 2028 with the session next year. I also want to invite you all to join us for our radio show, To Your Health. It's a great way to also learn about the meaningful work of health councils. They're featured in this radio show, which is hosted by Hutton Broadcasting on 103.7 FM in Santa Fe and Albuquerque. And it's also streamed online. I'm going to put the URL in the chat. SantaFe.com To Your Health. And for all of you, I mean this, you are all very much involved in a variety of ways, right? In support of our communities. You have an open invitation at the Alliance if you ever want to join the radio show and educate the public on the good work you're leading. Know that that's also your platform. And Kayla, I think you've been on our show, and there's been a few others also that have heard the show. If anybody wants to touch on how important that public awareness campaign is.
Sure, I can share. I had a really great experience. It was just Val and I, and at first I was a little nervous, but Val, of course, made me feel so comfortable, and it just felt like a conversation that ended up being recorded. But I think that having that platform is so valuable because, as we all know, our health councils do so much. We have our hands in so many different things. We wear so many different hats. And as we're going through this process of trying to educate not just the legislators, but our community as to why we are so instrumental just to the public health infrastructure, I think it's beneficial for us to seek out any opportunities to amplify our work, bring more attention to us. So if anybody is interested in joining that podcast, I highly, highly recommend it.
Thank you, Kayla. I did see Emily, I'll go back to the slide for you for sure. And I also included the registration link to the upcoming CCF, right? So that if you haven't registered, please do so, so that you don't miss out on that conversation with our candidates. Emily, is this the slide you're talking about, my friend? Okay, great. Any questions on this, or would you like me to emphasize on anything or clarify?
No, I just wanted to make sure I got the information. It looks great, and I'd love to share it with children's cabinet members as well.
Absolutely, please, please do. We're here. We'll be launching, by the way, on the advocacy front. Every year we provide an advocacy toolkit. So we're in the process of updating some of the information because every year, right, has to reflect the next legislative session. So it should be up and running next week. And I did put the URL in the chat for you all to reference that. And I also put the URL to the registration for the upcoming CCF, and the link to, oh gosh, where is it? Oh, here it is. There's this link, there's the QR code, and then the link on the chat, it goes, takes you, all three take you to the same place. I know Jonathan has presented at CCF, health councils here have attended, and others. If anybody wants to share what you find most informative or relevant about this convening, feel free to chime in. The agenda for this convening is, every agenda is informed by CCF members. And so what folks have asked for is they want to do 3 breakout sessions. They want to come together to explore alignment for addressing social determinants of health. And so we're going to have our friends from UNM Project ECHO facilitate that whole process. And I know Project ECHO is a huge collaborator with health councils and vice versa. We're going to have our friends from the New Mexico Healthcare Authority provide updates on SB3. The funding allocations have been announced, and all the regions have submitted their priority plans. So they're going to provide an update and have 30 minutes to answer questions, because I know there's a lot of questions still. And then the third one is going to be with our friends from Think New Mexico, who are going to share what emergent public health policies are on the radar for the next session. And then we're going to have our friends from the New Mexico Early Childhood Education talk about universal childcare and workforce development, right, for ECE teachers and so forth. Okay. And of course, we always want to extend the invitation to our community partners and and community members to join our advocacy efforts in support of your health council. And I've included our website on the chat for you all to be part of that process. This is just the calendar for what's coming up next week. And I think I already showed, let me just do this real quick, just to give it one more visual aid. If you go to committees, for example, and you go to Legislative Finance Committee and you click on committee members and meetings, this is where you can access the agenda. It'll tell you the location and also handouts, and you can click on the agenda and it'll give you the actual address of the locations where the meetings are going to take place and the actual agenda. So you can peruse these agendas to see what you're most interested in learning, or what you want to hear about, right? And schedule accordingly where you're gonna join in. Like I said, there's times where they provide an opportunity for public comment. So for example, when John and Tony attend, we're going to look for those public comment opportunities to thank legislators for sustaining the work of health councils and do a petition for making sure that they please include recurring funding. And then we wanted also to share with you this great space that we've created in response to the request from health councils and CCF members. It's an online hub. It's taken a little bit to upload because my Wi-Fi is, let me stop my video. It's a little spotty, but here's where you can connect with one another. We're always posting training opportunities, grant opportunities that are really aligned with the work that you're all doing in New Mexico. It kind of interfaces like Facebook, right? You go to the feed, and this is where people post resources, toolkits, updates about activities that are happening in our communities, advocacy updates. This one is about Beat the Heat guidelines, new members being welcomed, registration, and grant opportunities as well. I know that that's me on too much caffeine. Sorry, Jonathan. But anyways, I'll put that link in the chat as well, my friends. And it's just emphasizing, right, the public awareness. And I'm sure you're all involved in leading your own public awareness. But I think the more that we can connect the dots for the Alliance in support of our partners and our communities, along with health councils, we run a public awareness campaign is called United for a Healthy and Thriving New Mexico. And we have a seal. So we're going to be launching all of that in the fall. We have a seal that you can include in your social media and on your materials, because it just shows, an alliance with one another. It shows a support for the things, the policies that we're all advocating for in service of our communities. And I just want to switch very quickly for some updates for health councils, in support of health councils. We just launched the annual comprehensive survey. We have a $50 gift card. It's due at the end of the month, but of course there's flexibility with that. And this one is important because we gather a lot of understanding about the work of health councils this last year, status updates, so that we can curate our advocacy messaging in a very relevant manner, what's happening right now for you. And these are moments of us being out in community. Jonathan, you want to talk about your event, because it was so beautiful for the beautiful men in Santa Clara Pueblo. Do you want to share?
Sure. We had a men's health fair in Santa Clara Pueblo this past May. Last one we had was in 2015, and it was geared towards a lot of the men's health issues, a lot of the things that they've been wanting to do, So we had a really good turnout. Like we had, people recognize the gentleman next to me. His name's Ray Naranjo. but he's known as Manko around here. He was on the show Chopped when they had the Native American chefs on there. So he's from Santa Clara. He literally lives down the road from where the gym's at. And we just had a lot of good presentations. We had lunch, and we did a survey with the men, and found out what the needs they have. And it was really good. It was really good for the community. I think a lot of them, we've been gearing a lot of it towards post-pandemic, like outreach for the youth and for elders needs. So like, I think this was an opportunity to kind of get like, listen to the guys, like, okay, like this is your opportunity to shine, guys. What do you guys want to talk about? So they actually had a lot to talk about. It was, ironic. They actually brought up a lot of issues. They brought up stuff, and in the survey as well too, I thought what was an issue wasn't the issue. It was something totally different. So I was like, oh wow. So when I went to the tribal council, they were like, so how the men's health programs are good? They said they just want more stuff like this, like this. Like, oh wow. Okay, great. So I mean, stuff like this is really good. And thank you again, Valeria, for showing up. It was really fun, and the tribal council really appreciated it, you being there as well. And I said the staff, everybody was just great, so overall it was a good event.
It was, and so informative and resourceful for men's health and preventive health, colon cancer, diabetes. I mean, they were taking vitals. It was such a resourceful convening for the men in Santa Clara Pueblo. And then on the left-hand side, we have our visits from Region 5, the last SB3 SIM, that we had the opportunity to sit down and connect with health councils in Lee County, which is right here on the upper side here with Melva and Camilla, and then Eddy County with Mia and Sarah Bowman. And we also got some time with Representative Brown. It was so sweet. And I just realized, my gosh, we're over time, my friends. But if you can just grant me one more minute of your precious time and let us know how you have found this advocacy health council talks. If you have any pearls of wisdom to share, any reflections.
I was just going to chime in. This is Susan Brown, and I've been listening to all of the Health Council talks from the beginning, and they have just been amazing.
Thank
as
you,
a student
Susan.
learning about the Health Council. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And something's not working here with this little poll, such as oh, here it is. Just launching it. And if you have a second to check in, that would be great. Any words of wisdom from your own advocacy experience that you can share with your peers?
Listen to your people. That's all I can say. They're the ones that want the services, they want community involvement, so be the voice and be the action. For me, it was very heartwarming that the tribe trusts me, being from here and being able to do a lot of my work, and it made it a lot easier because I listened to them. So like I tell my tribal colleagues, and I tell health councils, just listen to your people because it's what they want and what they feel is important. So listen.
Thank you, Jonathan. And being that megaphone for underrepresented voices, that's at the heart of the alliance here. It's literally being the consistent megaphone for, as we hear and learn from our communities across counties, tribes, pueblos, and nations, what's more important. And that's what we vocalize and petition for and advocate. And the more we do that together, the better, my friends. Our communities will benefit. All right, let me know if this was helpful. Okay, Pamela, I see you. Thank you. Know that from all of us at the Alliance, we're wishing you a nourishing, beautiful weekend. Thank you for joining us today. Take good care of your precious selves and each other's, my friends. Bye, Brenda. Bye, Joyce. Svetlana, we'll connect soon.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Actually,